Hello you guys, welcome back. So today I'm just going to be posting the full tutorial to the Santa hat that we did yesterday on Whatnot Live. In case you missed it, you can catch it here and watch the full tutorial. So these little hats, I took them off of a garland that I picked up at Walmart. And right here it does look a little stiff because I did dip them into Elmer's glue, half water, and let them sit overnight so they could take shape. I'm going to start off by giving it some coats of red paint, and I'm using DIY in the color Carnival Red, which I pick up from Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Design. So I'm going to let this dry up a bit, and then I'm going to start to stuff my little hat. So once I start filling my little hat here, I focus on getting the top of the little hat fully stuffed. I don't want that to stay soft. So I make sure I focus on getting that fully stuffed on top, and then I will continue to fill the hat with some cotton. And here I'm just using any cotton from a pillow that I picked up at Walmart. I find that it's cheaper. So yeah, that is what you see me doing here. And to cover the bottom of my little hat, I'm using some felt that I picked up at Hobby Lobby. These are just the 25-cent sheets. And I'm just using this cup just to have a guidance for the circle. But that's all I use the cup for. So now I'm going to close this up using some hot glue. I'm going to start by putting the hot glue around all the edges, and then I will close it up using the felt. And I will say, if you want your hat to curve, I will usually add a wire on the inside just to help it take shape. But I did close this one up before adding the wire, so I'm just going to go with it and keep it just straight up. So now I'm just going in with my last coat of paint, and this paint is going to be the coat that I'm going to use to grungy up my little hat here. I'm going to use the wet paint and put some cinnamon, I think it's cinnamon, nutmeg, and there's something else in there. I don't know what it is. I just like the smell of it, so I mixed the three together. With the witch hats, I used Mod Podge to get this to stick, but then I did it again on these using just paint, and it sticks exactly the same, so I don't feel like you need to use Mod Podge. So here I'm just going to add the little grungy mix to my hat, and then just give them a little tap to get the excess off. Next, we're going to cut the extra part of the witch hat that we no longer need, because this is going to be a Santa hat now. We're going to cut that extra off, and I am going to leave the little ledge here just so it could sit upright and have a little more support. But once I get my little fur around the hat, this part won't even show. And then I just kind of go around just to make sure that I didn't cut any of the parts that were glued or any loose pieces. I do add some glue to close that up. So I took it outside and gave it a little clear coat of spray paint, and while that dries, I'm going to move on. I'm just going to show you guys how to add in the wire in case you wanted it to have a little fold on your hat. I'm just going to go ahead and show that next. So this wire is just any old wire I had laying around. I just curved the top. I fold it inward so it doesn't poke through the top of my little hat here. I just use a pen or whatever just to make the little way for the wire to go in. And just make sure you fill it on the tip of the hat to make sure it went fully in. I'm going to cut the extra part of the wire off and then just fold that inward so it doesn't stick out from the bottom. And now that you have your wire in there, you can fold your hat over and give it your last coat of paint, and then it will take its shape, and the wire just helps it stay that way. And that is the only difference between the straight up hat and if you wanted to have a little fold over. Only thing with doing the folded hat, the only thing I would say is if you are going to do it, fold it over first and then put your last coat of paint so it can dry that way, and just help out the wire so it can take its shape once it dries, and it will harden up after the third coat of paint. So, and if you wanted to add a little bit of hot glue right underneath that to help it as well, you can do that, but I find that it takes shape without any glue, and it does just fine. And here I'm just showing before and after of clear coat. Clear coat is on the pointy one, the folded one does not. So the color does change up a little bit, which to me for the better. I like the darker look. It gives it a more primitive look. So here for the fur on his little hat, we're gonna use this from Hobby Lobby. I got it from the section where the felt is at. And I wanted something this color. The ones in the Christmas section, you get a little bit more, but it's also very white, which I didn't want. So using hot glue, I'm just going to work my way around the little hat, and I'm going to be starting at the seam so that can face backwards. And since we are working on a curved surface, you will have to add a little bit of glue around the top because it will bend a little bit and you'll have like that little space. But you just add some hot glue in there and it'll do just fine. And once we meet the other end, we're just going to cut the excess off and kind of overlap it so you won't be able to see where it ends. You still have that little part where you could see where you cut off, but I just kind of overlapped it a little bit and it still shows, but that's going to be towards the back, so that doesn't really matter. And for his little pom-pom, we are just going to use these. I also picked it up from that section at Hobby Lobby where the felt is at. It's the closest color I found to his fur. So we're just going to use this, add a little bit of glue, and then just stick it to the top of the little hat. And the fun part to embellish, I'm using some little pieces of greenery, like Christmas greenery that I took off of a garland from the Goodwill bins, and we're just going to use pieces and add them to the front. I add a little bit of hot glue and then add my greenery, and this part is scary. I'm scared to burn my fingers. This glue gun gets really hot, so just be careful if you try it. So I do love fullness, so I do add about 4 little pieces of greenery. And then I will add some glue on top of that and add a little bow, and I will use the bow to put pressure so they can adhere well. So I also add a little bell to the bottom of my little bow, and that is basically it for this part. Last part, I'm just going to add the little word Santa Claus to the hat, and then we'll be all done. So this is a printable that I printed off of Etsy. If I can find the link for the shop, I will add it. I just added to a piece of, what is this called? A corrugated paper that I picked up from Hobby Lobby just to give it a little dimension. And then I will glue that right onto my hat. So that is basically it for our little Santa hats. Be on the lookout for these hats. I'm not sure if you'll still be able to find them, but it is a garland and it's found in the Halloween section at Walmart. And if you want to catch me live on Whatnot crafting this coming up week, we will be doing it Friday at 6 p.m. So if you want to catch me there, I will add the link down below. And again, thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next one. And I will add a clip of the witch hat and the Santa hat at the end. Bye guys.